the workaround to my link, so thank you for that. And then I usually, as many of you know, I just screen share here because some of you may not have had the chance to run through my email. So I'm going to do that quick before we head into the mayor. So let me share my screen here. Everything is now starting to fall on let me, hold on. I'm going to stop sharing to make sure I shared the right screen here. Okay, so you should be seeing my chamber page here. Everything's now starting to fall under the daily chamber email just because nothing big is coming, which is good and it's bad. Oh, that is, yes, this is my one from, it's not my one from today. All right, you're gonna get to see the inner workings of our chamber website here quick, but I'll wing it in the meantime. I'm used to that. So bottom line, I was just on a call with most of the big chambers around the state. And one of the things that was being talked about, of course, was Milwaukee. They were on the webinar, if you will, and they had talked about how they think, cross your fingers, they have hit a plateau. And so they're hoping that plateau now causes a drop off, which will be good for the rest of the state. And so that was good news. There's talk, one of the things I learned was the current Safer at Home, the governor can only extend that until May 10th. To extend that beyond will require both the state assembly and the Senate to approve that for it to be extended. So that was something I had not heard before. Some other things that came out today, the La Crosse County Health offered a business checklist. It basically runs you through how to clean for COVID if COVID comes into your workplace and to prevent it. There's a little bit more guidelines on unemployment. So honestly, the number one question we're hearing right now is, I am a business owner and I am the only employee. What is there for me for funding? And it's really this unemployment piece, unless they want to take out some loans for covering some of their operations. But this federal guidelines for unemployment is coming into the state unemployment website. Essentially, they have to program it to get it to accept those unemployment applications for the independent contractors and the self-employed. And then that will allow those individuals to apply at last. Otherwise, there are elections happening today. We had some questionnaires out there. It was a rocky road yesterday. All of a sudden it was 1:30 and the elections were off, and then come 5 o'clock they were back on. So that was a little interesting day. And then also an ask from our school district. So they have, the La Crosse School District has students that do not have access to Wi-Fi. And so they're asking businesses, if you have Wi-Fi and are willing for students to park in your parking lot, or maybe like you're the chamber, we have a picnic table outside where they can work. They're trying to identify what businesses would allow the students to use their guest Wi-Fi, or also hotspots, to be the host of a hotspot, not again within your business, but in the parking lot and around. So there's a couple more resources that we released. The feds are starting to talk about the next stimulus bill. There's a new OSHA poster. There's now 10 steps for hygiene that they're recommending. And then the statistic that I heard today was unemployment unofficially could be as high as 13%. That is a record high for the state and much higher than the last recession, which was about 9%. And so otherwise in the community, campgrounds are closed. Viterbo's now offering their dorms, and the YMCA had a pretty big layoff because of course they are closed as well. So those are the updates as of today. Like I said, things are starting to slow down a little bit. I'll be talking here soon with you guys about what are the next steps here for our chamber. How I look at it is, let me stop sharing here. How I look at it is, you know, we have this big onslaught of information initially, and everybody's applying for all of that funding and trying to identify that funding that's available. And then we've got to maintain everybody until we can get open again. And then And then as soon as the doors open, we have to be prepared as businesses to relaunch our economy. And I'm hearing a lot of naysayers out there because this is an unprecedented, I hate that word, it gets overused in this conversation, but this is, we've never seen the economy with what it's doing right now. We have global markets that are impacted. The stock market, of course, is impacted. Small businesses in every single industry are impacted. And so it's going to be a challenge to see if we can literally just like plug back in and keep rolling the way that we have been. But with that high of an unemployment rate, that clearly means we need to get people into jobs. And once they're in jobs, they're going to have the money to spend in all of your wonderful businesses. And so we've got to try and shore up getting people linked to where they need to get linked to. So Mayor Tim Kabat, thank you so very much for joining us today. I know he and I were chatting before this on what is the League of Municipalities, which is kind of the big group for municipalities to be getting together and talking about what's needed. I know there is some, I thought I heard some funding coming to the city out of the federal stimulus package. So Tim, if you just want to take it with, what are you hearing? What are you guys working on?
Thank you, Vicki. I want to wish everybody a good afternoon, and I hope folks are doing well where they are at, living in this just different world that we're all experiencing. The league, I'll just maybe touch on a couple things, and then I'm happy to answer questions or if folks have comments or suggestions. The league, as folks might imagine, really has been focused almost entirely on the election for today and just all of the changes and the wild swings that have taken place. And you know, we along with, I know, all of the other locations and our clerks have done just a phenomenal job in trying to balance, obviously, the goal of having a fair and safe and accessible election with keeping everybody safe and not risking exposure. So even with all that, I'm still a bit concerned that we might see an uptick or an increase in cases here in the state, and hopefully that doesn't impact us locally. But just putting that many people together, it really is contradictory to the governor's stay-at-home order. But in any case, you know, we're going through that today. We're going to get through it. It's going to be a little bit different because, you know, like many of you, I'm sure you want to know I want to know the election results right away, and we won't have that until later next week. So we'll have to just continue with that patience. I think that that would be the other word that I've heard a lot besides unprecedented is the word patience, that we all have to just continue to be strong and show a lot of patience. So I'm hopeful that people are hanging in there. We are working on a number of things. I mean, as we have gone to an emergency operations center here in our city, so we have both our fire and our police chiefs who have stepped up and they are in command, if you will, of our larger organization along with myself. And then, you know, we're still providing our critical services and doing those things, but it's in a much different, just in a different, I guess, atmosphere and the level of communication and trying to anticipate the surge and working with our healthcare facilities and the La Crosse County Health Department really has been a primary focus of our efforts. So I've seen anywhere ranging from April 17th to April 25th is when they are projecting that we'll see kind of the spike or the peak in cases and exposures, but of course that can change by the hour and by the day. So we're continuing those preparations, and just like a lot of other locations, I think we're all struggling with providing that protective equipment for our employees. I'm sure you all are as well, and just trying to figure out what is the right balance and having the